So, welcome back to Hustle to Flow. I've been hearing different versions of this lately that people show up, but I'm not quite sure, what activity brought the people into the business, right? It's like we have a lot more activity as businesses grow, but we are not really sure what drove that activity. And if we don't understand what drives the activity to bring the folks in, we cannot create repeatable revenue, right? So even though there's more activity, we can't tell what's working anymore. That's the pressure that we're exploring today in Hustle to Flow. So as businesses grow, we do more. We have more activity. So there's more hiring, there's more advertising, there's more marketing, there's all these different activities. But the business doesn't get easier to understand. It gets more difficult to understand. And it definitely can challenge a founder who's looking to create repeatable revenue. So, the challenge is it doesn't always necessarily feel like failure. Sometimes it feels like success. And the danger in that is I took an action, it brought people in, it felt like a success, but I don't really know if that cause made the difference. And so then we do more of that activity only to find out later that that wasn't what actually generated the result, right? So it doesn't feel like failure. It feels like it's inconsistent because things happen, then they stall out. Then business is good another month, and then it stalls out another month, right? And the bigger the business gets, the harder it is to understand what is the signal. So, what we do is we always respond with more, right? More hiring, more marketing, more more outreach. And one of the things to consider in this environment with inconsistent demand is to understand what the activity is actually creating in the business. And here, one of the things we want to understand is that improvement, just because we took an action and things got better, doesn't mean that we really understand what activity was being created. If we don't understand the activity being created, we can't replicate it. And the challenge is that sometimes it's down the road where you actually realize that there was not a relationship between the improvement and the activity, not direct anyway. And yeah, not direct. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with this scenario. It's not a failure point. It's just that whatever we don't understand, we can't replicate. And there's a time factor. It takes time to see results. And by the time you actually see them, guess what? You've invested the resources and the time and didn't get the result that you were looking for because we never solved for the inconsistent demand behavior. Okay. So, a result can confirm something changed, like something happened. We know that. But what we don't know is what that something actually created in the business. I keep saying that because we're looking for movement. It's not enough just to have demand. It's not enough just to have conversations. It's not enough to have follow up. The real question when we're looking at revenue and particularly creating repeatable revenue in this environment is what moved. If the activity doesn't create movement, then we're always going to be disappointed with the results. So here's what it looks like when there is inconsistent demand behavior. Sometimes you hire too soon. Complexity in the business keeps growing. Temporary wins become permanent overhead. When you make that hire, if it's based on inconsistent demand behavior, guess what? It's not easy to back out of that decision, right? And then one day you don't recognize the business anymore. This is the outcome we don't want to see. So within this environmental pressure of inconsistent demand behavior, there are many patterns. And there are many ways to explain all the different forms of inconsistency. But we're only looking at one pattern this week. And the spotlight pattern this week is false cause clarity. And this is, I'm just going to read it. This is the tendency to mistake a successful outcome for proof. In other words, sometimes something works and we assume we know why, but so in the lab, we're going to take a deeper dive. On Thursday, today, Hustle to Flow is just orientation. We talk about the environmental pressure. We look at what those pressures look like in real life. And then on Tuesday, we do a deep dive and we look at the mechanisms and put numbers around what happens when a business is experiencing inconsistent demand behavior. So we're going to look at why growth doesn't always feel better and how temporary wins become long-term commitments. And finally, when success is misread. Because the only thing worse than being successful is realizing that it's not repeatable or that it creates something that we didn't mean to create. But anyway, we're going to check that out on Tuesday, June 9th, on Profit Visibility Lab at 6:30 p.m. You do have to RSVP for that room. Okay. So in closing, I just want to, when we're looking at this, it's not that there's anything that's wrong with the decisions that are made when we're experiencing inconsistent demand behavior in the frame of false cause clarity. They're not bad decisions, right? We have to make decisions. That's not something we're better off to make a decision than not make one, right? And it could be a good month, a successful campaign, a referral that turns into business. Those are all good things, right? But we want more of the good things. And because we want more of the good things, we have to understand what activity was driven by that activity, by that specific, by that campaign or that good month. And once we understand the mechanisms, we can repeat it, right? But the problem is building a future around an explanation that is incorrect, or that is not aligned with what you were expecting to build. Is going to create a business that you really didn't want to have. So it's better that we understand. And this is what we're going to take a look at on Tuesday in Profit Visibility Lab. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Wait, it's Thursday. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day. Okay. Till next time.